unmute myself, which is a slight miracle. But I guess, actually, I suppose this proves, doesn't it, what we're about today. So supporting a virtual team is so important, and supporting the people in your teams is really vital. We've been at home now for 3 weeks, and our IT infrastructure was pretty much ready to let us hit the ground running, and the team have been brilliant. But it's actually stealing some of Jamie's thunder, but it's about mindset, isn't it? Everybody's just really knuckled down and got on with it, and I actually don't think we've worked harder. Never mind being at home and thinking you're going to get an easy life. So our webinar process is just one of the things that we've had to very, very quickly adapt and get to grips with. So we've done a lot of webinars already. As you might imagine, we're doing a lot of talking to government. So we're taking a lot of information from businesses and feeding that straight into government so that they can adapt their policies where they need to. And a lot of that is evidenced with some of the changes we've seen to the job retention scheme and furloughing, and how quickly the government is changing that when they're hearing from what businesses are looking for. We're also talking, so I'm talking 3 times a week to the regional business support group. So we're all getting together, and the local authorities are telling us about how quickly they're getting on with the grant payment processing. So far this week, each of the 3 local authorities in our area has paid out well over 100, if not 200 grants each. And that's significant amounts of money to get businesses over the current hurdles that we're facing. But the money needs to come much quicker, and the business interruption loan scheme is kind of the next big thing that we know businesses need their hands on that money, and we really, really need to get that to them as quickly as possible. I know the banks are working enormously hard, and I know that most, if not all of them, will be behind the scenes carrying on working right over the Easter weekend. So the branch network might not be open, but you can be sure that they are working hard in the background to support businesses. But if you've got any issues at all in any of that, please let any of our team know, because that's the other thing that we've done. We have looked at our whole membership, and we have divided that up across our whole team of 10, and people are now members of our team are contacting members direct to say, I'm your named contact. If there's any issues you're experiencing, you just want to have a chat, or I want to tell you about the webinars and some of the other things that we can help signpost you to. And that we're getting some brilliant feedback from businesses. Some of them are absolutely closed, and they're saying, that's the situation. I don't really need anything at the moment, but I'm pleased that you've been in touch. And others are coming to us with offers. So we've had loads of offers from businesses for other businesses, which has been brilliant. And we've got a COVID-19 hub on our website, which I'm hoping many of you will have seen, but and actually trying to keep that as up to date as possible is definitely a challenge, as all of the guidance keeps changing around us, but we will make sure that that's got as much as possible. But that's also got a couple of other things on it. So there's a recruitment page. So there are businesses that are definitely recruiting at the moment, can't get people fast enough. So if you've got a recruitment need at the moment and you'd like us to list your recruitment on that site, then please let us know. But we've also got a deliveries page. So many of the local restaurants and takeaways had to change their business model really fast, and hotels. So we're just trying to do as much practically as we can to support businesses. And hopefully some of you will have an email in your inboxes today, because we've launched a Partners for Business programme. So we're lucky to have a number of Platinum and Enterprise partners, and we've been talking to them about how can they help our local business community. So the Chamber at the moment is helping members and non-members alike, because everybody needs support, and there's a Business Gateway, Scottish Enterprise and the local authorities. Not one of us can actually cope with all the businesses that need our help at the moment. So the Partners for Business programme will involve them speaking in webinars, writing content for our website, but they'll also do mentoring. So, some short and sharp mentoring, whether you can't cope with all the work you've got at the moment, or whether you're in real crisis, or whether you're somewhere in between and you just need a bit of help from somebody in one of the partner firms that deal with us, then please get in touch with Ross and let us know if you'd like to plug into that. And just to say that, I'm really pleased to see this webinar, because last week we did our Wednesday webinar on mental health and well-being, and that was really thought-provoking. But but super interesting, and I know today's not going to be any different. So I will get out of the way now, and I'm going to introduce our first speaker, but we've got 3 really great speakers for you today. So we've got Laura Hutt, we've got Jamie McBrearty, and we've got Anna Hart, all going to give you their take on how you support your people and how you do that virtually. So Laura, if you would like to unmute yourself, and I will disappear. Thank you so much, folks.
Thank you very much, Alison. I appreciate the reminder for the microphone.
I can hear you loud and clear. Thanks, Laura.
Good. Thank you. So yeah, thanks very much for the Chamber team for inviting me onto the call. First of all, to start off by kind of giving everyone a bit of an overview on EQ. So I'm the marketing manager at EQ, so I work quite closely with a lot of the partners and a lot of the managers in EQ. I'm based in the Dundee office, but EQ have 4 offices, so across the east of Scotland, Forfar, Dundee, Cooper and Glenrothes. We have over 120 staff and 17 partners. So as you can imagine, it's been quite a large operation to get everyone kind of remote working. But I'm quite glad to say that we've been more remote working now for a few weeks, the same as the Chamber team, and luckily it's been quite a smooth transition for us. So our IT team, again, have been absolutely fantastic with the transition. So prior to us obviously remote working, they went across our offices and made sure that we all had sort of our laptop, we all had kit that we could access all of our systems at home. So, you know, from things like emails and connecting your phones and transporting your calls that you would get in the office to your mobile, so everything can just run seamlessly. So the technology part was quite key to get right, but luckily because of the systems that we all use, it's quite easy to kind of just adapt those to remote work, which has been great. Obviously, as an accountancy firm, a lot of the stuff we do is obviously on software packages. So, you know, things like Sage and Xero, a lot of them nowadays, as most of you will probably be aware, are cloud accounting packages. So they can be accessed from anywhere. So we've been quite lucky in a lot of the transition to those helping us out a lot. But any of the traditional sort of accounting packages, we've been able to kind of just use seamlessly as well, which has been quite great. So obviously how we've done things in EQ, we've usually got 4 receptionists, so per office there'll be a reception, but to try and make sure that the calls are streamlined, we've got 1 firm receptionist answering all of our calls, so that they can then be transported to the right person. We've updated our website, so all of our partners and managers have their direct dials there, so it's easier if you know you're in constant contact, you want to speak to someone directly, you just quickly call them and you'll get them. We've made sure that we've got all of that updated, and that we've obviously got our emails as we usually would anyway. I think the thing that we have adapted to and used quite a lot in the past couple of weeks has been Teams. So just like we're using just now, we had started using that internally for mainly a marketing purpose and internal meetings. So if someone from the Glenrothes office wanted to speak to someone in Forfar, rather than going all the way up there and, you know, taking that time to travel, we just do a quick conference call, which has been quite useful for us. So for the people that have used that, it's probably been quite a seamless transition. For others, they've maybe had to adapt a little bit, but it's been quite good. So because we've had that use, now we're using it in a much wider scale, in a much wider capacity. So in our offices, we all have kind of like, we've been split into little teams, so a manager in each team, and then the kind of junior people throughout it. So we all have a daily catch up with the team and just kind of say, you know, what we're up to, what we're working on. Also, you know, to kind of a bit of social as well, because, you know, some people are living at home. So just to have that little bit of social interaction throughout the day. And along with that, we also have like a kind of a mix it up sort of Friday. So every Friday, people from across our office, like you would usually, you'd go into the kitchen at work and you'd make each other coffees and things like that and have a wee chat. So just to make sure that we've still got that social side, because we are quite a social firm, we've been trying to kind of just pick random people across the offices for every group on a Friday, just to kind of have a quick chat with each other, just to catch up with, you know, how they're getting on, you know, supporting that sort of mental health side of things as well. Because although it's important to, you know, chat about work and chat about stuff, you kind of miss that social side when you're remote working. So we've just trying to be, you know, doing things just as kind of as normal as we can really. Personally, I think, you know, we've found that because, you know, usually if you're waiting to see someone, say you're going down to see someone on a Friday, usually you kind of go, right, I'll create this list and I'll just speak to them when I see them. But we've actually found that we're communicating more now, so we're communicating better than ever because we've got this technology here, and we can kind of set it up and just, jump on a video call with 5 minutes, quick chat, and it's much easier. So we actually find that it's quite good for us, and we find that we are communicating more. Obviously, as a business to business organization, our priorities are clients. So a lot of our partners and managers and client facing team have been having calls with all of our clients virtually. So whether it's on Teams like this or whatever suits them, sometimes just via call or email if they don't have the capacity to do that. So we've made sure that we are giving our clients the support that they need, and contacting them, just like Alison said, offering the support that everyone's really in need of at this moment in time. And we've obviously, from a marketing point of view, also have like a hub on our website where we're just trying to be updating people as much as we can as well. Just as obviously a little example, which I always find quite interesting. So obviously, as an accountancy firm, we do audits, things like that. So just to adapt to how things are working nowadays, one of our auditors on our team from Glenrothes had to do an audit just due to time, of a motor trade dealer. So luckily it's before they closed their doors, and he actually had to use FaceTime. So luckily, cars are quite big vehicles, so you can easily see the registration plates, things like that. So he was able to kind of go in via FaceTime, and the guy's sitting there using his phone to kind of see the cars in place and things like that. So there's always a way to kind of do things. You just need to find that way, and try and adapt to it. A lot of our other contact is with other intermediaries, bankers, solicitors, which is very vital at this point in time for our clients. So we've been doing a lot of these sort of video calls with a lot of our intermediaries. So 3 of the guys from a particular bank, 3 of us trying to kind of discuss the best way that we can support our clients in the local business community as well. So that's quite important for us. Really, we've been quite lucky because EQ is naturally quite a supportive organisation. First and foremost, we're a training firm, so each year we get 7 new graduates from university in to do a chartered accountancy traineeship with us. So we've always had that ethos of supporting those junior members of staff and trying to kind of help them and make sure that they're comfortable. So really, we've just adapted the way that we're doing this using Teams, the way that I've mentioned, and really we've just kind of tried to pick up our tools and then kind of move them home as much as we can, and kind of collaborate as much as we usually would. In some instances, like I say, a little bit better, which is it's quite nice. We're just trying to, as I think everyone is, just face the challenge of everything head on as much as we can, which is fantastic. From obviously, since I'm a marketer, so I should probably mention that a little bit. So obviously from our perspective, we're used to traveling between offices, although I'm based in Dundee along with our IT and our HR central services. We usually go across offices. So it's sometimes, as you all know, better to kind of speak to people face to face. You can really gauge how they're feeling about things and speak to them. So obviously not being able to do that, you don't want to leave people not feeling as engaged or not feeling like they know what's going on. So from our marketing team perspective, we've been trying to make sure that internally, just as much as we have been externally, that we're communicating with people, we're letting each other know what's going on, any updates that we're putting on the website, we're sending round any information that's available that might not be shared by some members of staff. We're sharing them with everybody. So we're just trying to keep everyone as engaged as we can, and we have quite a good relationship with our HR team. So whenever they're trying to encourage people, we'll try and echo that as well. So we're just as a sort of consistent voice throughout the firm and keep people as engaged as we can. One example that we've started doing is, you may have seen them on our website and social media, but we're doing our EQ at Home series, which we've just started since remote working. And really all that is we're just asking our team to kind of fill in a few questions that we kind of asked them to answer about how they're adapting, so what they're doing to keep in touch with the team, how they're looking after their well-being as well, because as obviously Jamie will mention later, it's incredibly crucial at this point in time that you're looking after yourself as well. So it's been quite interesting. So we're getting a lot of answers from across our offices, so it's good because they're sharing their advice and their support. It's nice because you get to see a little slice of that person's home. So I know it's obviously quite nice to see inside people's houses and stuff like that. I've been loving it because it's just pictures of animals, so lots of pets, so big fan of that. So it's really nice just to make sure that people are sharing their tips that some people might not normally know about. I think a lot of them have kind of been, as you probably are imagining, try to keep that normalcy. So having your video chats during the day, making sure you take your coffee breaks, going out for a walk, making sure you clear your head. But I'll leave that obviously for Jamie to kind of touch on as well. And lastly, from our perspective, we have a charity of the year each year, and this year we actually chose SAMH, so the Scottish Association of Mental Health. We are trying to circulate a lot of what they're providing throughout this time as well. So we're trying to find ways that we can still support them. We actually had schedules in one of our first walks with the Supernova at the Kelpies. Obviously, with everything that's happening, we can't quite do that. So we're just trying to find new ways to, keep supporting them, because I'm sure they'll be getting quite a lot of calls and stuff at this point in time as well. So, I mean, obviously I don't want to keep going on, so I'll just obviously to wrap up, I think we've been quite lucky because the culture of EQ, everyone is, people are at the heart of what we do. Everything we do is related around, our clients, our people, our interaction. So we've just tried to use our supportive and collaborative nature to kind of, whatever we are, just adapt to it, just take that challenge and just support each other and communicate as best we can. So we're really lucky that we've been backed up by fantastic technology such as this, and we're just trying to keep things pretty much as close to normal as we can, and just make sure everyone and checking in with everyone, socialising as well as doing that work aspect as well. And that's obviously how we're coping, and hopefully everyone's managing based at home as well. But that's enough for me. I do have a tendency to go on, so I will stop. And I will pass over to Anna from Insights. So class, this is your reminder to turn on your microphone, thankfully. And I will pass on to Anna from Insights. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, and a very timely reminder, because I would have forgotten to do that. Had you not suggested it, thank you. So lots of parallels really in terms of my experience to kind of Laura's experience. Let me just tell you a little bit about Insights to start with. So Insights is headquartered in Dundee, but we are a global company. We have 600 people across almost as many countries, with the kind of large majority of our population in the UK, about 200, and most of them are actually based in Dundee. So I guess the complexities of managing remotely are not new to our organisation, which is probably a plus. I guess what is really new for us is the fact that every single one of our colleagues is working from their living room, dining room, child's bedroom. So that is very new. And so many individuals are used to having, daily contact with their team. And one of the things that, if anyone who joins Insights or has interaction with Insights, one of the things that you'll be told is that it's a very relationship-based organisation. And I guess one of the wonderful lessons to come out of this experience for us is that those relationships are pretty resilient, and those relationships do not necessarily have to be nurtured through face-to-face contact. We were fortunate enough to have access to Teams and to use Teams prior to a situation occurring. So I think, let's put it this way, I think people's development in terms of using the functionality of Teams is in progress. We're not all as proficient as others, but certainly it's an opportunity that's been handed to us to kind of learn and kind of plunge into the deep end. So we're all really using Teams with a vengeance now. We are kind of very similar in the sense that our global population started home working with effect from the 16th of March. So I've forgotten how many weeks that is now, let's say 3, possibly 4. We actually were using the 16th of March as a bit of a business continuity test to see whether our systems were resilient enough to support a kind of mass working from home operation. And actually we made the call, because of the stability of the systems that day, that we would just continue from that point. So it was a little bit funny watching various colleagues walking out into the car park with monitors and chairs and all of that kind of thing to get themselves organised for home working. But it kind of added to the drama of the situation at the time. So I guess from that point, we were in the situation where we had to essentially make sure that people were equipped and comfortable, and that's all of our people in terms of being able to continue their day-to-day job. but also our leaders and managers who, you know, some of whom were incredibly used to managing remote teams because they've got lots of experience of doing so. But for some of whom that was incredibly new and a different experience for them. So I had already set up a bit of a business continuity group for HR just to kind of try and catch some of the balls that were flying about, because we were anticipating some impact coming from Corona. And actually, we kind of seen the slow and steady progress of it, because I have teams in Singapore and Southeast Asia where they're kind of first impacted. So we started to see some of the measures that were being put in place as it crept across the globe, and you know, we're able to learn some lessons from that quite helpfully. But I think the first thing that we did and put in place and created was a couple of toolkits. One for our people managers to say, you know, what are the things that you need to think about in terms of how you would manage and lead in this context. And I should say that I'm really, really happy to share any of that collateral via Sarah towards the end, if that would be helpful. It's very kind of specific to insights, but there's definitely kind of content in there that could be reapplied and kind of considered in other contexts. I think the first thing I would say in terms of managing teams, and particularly managing teams remotely in against a backdrop that is really fast moving. You've heard the word unprecedented probably more than you've ever heard it in your careers by this stage, but genuinely some of the circumstances we're operating in are kind of, there's no best practice for it. There's no kind of history to say, well, I've done this before and here's how I'll approach that. There are similar parallels. So one of the things we said to our people leaders in this toolkit was kind of trust your judgment. And kind of upping the ante on feeling comfortable operating in some level of ambiguity is probably going to stand you in good stead. So there's a bit of a, it sounds really easy, but you know, you'll be asked to make decisions, and sometimes you won't have all the data upon which to make those decisions, but the decision you make will probably be the right thing because it's the decision you've made based on what you know. And actually, given the kind of current context and current circumstances, actually what your people need is for you to lead from the front. So we're kind of actually encouraging our people managers to make decisions based on what they know, and kind of feel confident and comfortable in their own abilities and their own history of being a people leader to kind of make those decisions. And just kind of realising that in some of those situations, you know, you're thrust into the position where you're trying to control what's controllable, and maybe worry slightly less about what you can't control in terms of, you know, how long this is going to last or what the long-term impacts might be. And just kind of stay connected to your people, and the kind of if you create silence between you and your people, or a gap between your people, that's where the anxiety will bubble up. We've also provided our people leaders with some information about kind of managing through change, and I think, you know, that's an absolute constant for probably most of us in any organisation, and it's kind of helping our people leaders to recognise what their people and they themselves might be going through in terms of that change curve. You know, so the kind of shock of this is really different, evolving into kind of acceptance. I understand what it is I need to do to kind of trying to build a path to take them and their teams forward. And kind of naming some of those feelings and experiences is really, really important. And we provided our people leaders with a kind of pack of hints and tips around about how they could go about doing that, and some exercises that they could use personally for themselves, and also to kind of lead their teams through. So, you know, engaging in those conversations with their people about, yeah, that does feel different, and let's talk about what's brilliant about that, and let's talk about what's hard about it, because both of those things will actually be true. And the other piece that, you know, is really important, and, you know, we are also a kind of business to business provider of learning and development services, and a lifelong learning partner for a lot of organisations. So really our customers and our clients were at the forefront of our thinking as well here. And that's why it's really important for us to spend time with our people leaders and our people and talking to them about managing business continuity. So we need to keep doing what we have always done, which is deliver great products and great experiences to our customers, and doing that in a really evolving situation. So providing them with some hints and tips and approaches and resources to be able to help them do that and respond to questions from their people, and encourage them to connect with their colleagues to make sure that that continuity was maintained and managed. And I guess the kind of final piece was providing confidence to our kind of people leaders and managers who, you know, are incredibly experienced at managing teams, perhaps not in this context, are incredibly experienced at managing challenging situations, perhaps not this particular one, but reminding them that they had personal resources to draw from in terms of their own history and experience of making decisions and managing difficult and tough conversations. So I guess the kind of first approach for us was really to make sure that our leaders, line managers, felt equipped to be able to support their teams and individuals in their teams, and also to gain confidence themselves. Because not all of that could be managed effectively from a one central point across a number of different geographical populations. Alongside that, we created a kind of all-employee toolkit, so managing in this context and working in this context. And that was probably twofold for us, really. So there was a bit of kind of recognising that this might feel very different for some of our colleagues. Many of the teams in Insights are incredibly used to working remotely. It's just how they operate, and they have kind of inbuilt kind of infrastructure and punctuation in their day to make sure that they can do that really effectively. But a number of colleagues probably just didn't have that experience and didn't have a frame of reference for what good looks like. So we attempted to try to provide some of that. And there's probably, you know, some of that setup activity in terms of, you know, does an individual have a workplace that feels comfortable, and they you know, they're going to be there for 7-8 hours a day. So, you know, how do they set that up, and some tips and tricks for how to make that work effectively. I think there was also an acknowledgement, which is a pretty unusual set of circumstances, that a number of our people would not only be working from home, but would also be probably working from home with a spouse, a partner, families, children, various other individuals who've become their new colleagues almost. A number of people were finding themselves in a position where they were having to juggle a job, a kind of demanding job in quite tough, you know, situation, a change situation, whilst at the same time potentially having to entertain young children or toddlers and or homeschool children, or kind of manage the kind of hormonal surges of teenagers who weren't allowed out to see their friends or who had exams cancelled, for example. So it's all very new and kind of different context. So a couple of things in there that we thought were really important to support our colleagues with. One was kind of offering opportunities for them to be where they needed to be. So you know, if you need to take some time out to do some homeschooling or to make sure that your kind of family's well set up, then offering things like, you know, having conversations around about taking some annual leave, or potentially a temporary reduction in hours to kind of make sure that accommodation could happen. We kind of pretty much put anything on the table that would work for our people and might take the pressure off a little bit in what's a pretty unusual set of circumstances. So as well as the kind of managing your home life and managing your dependents and your responsibilities outside of work, we were keen to make sure that we provided people with a bit of a framework to help them stay focused and be as productive as possible while they were working from home, particularly in a circumstance where that might have been quite unusual for them. So there was the kind of piece about the kind of working space that I spoke about earlier. I think we'll all probably mention this, but I describe it as having some punctuation in your day. I personally have found it incredibly difficult not to be at my desk at 8 in the morning and still sitting here at 8 at night, because I don't have the punctuation of driving to the office or driving home, which would sort of bookend your day. So do as I say, not as I do, as I said to all of my team, but trying to find some kind of daily rhythm, you know, of starting your work, building in breaks, making sure that you take some time away from the desk in some kind of active way, which isn't just sitting down. Making sure that, you know, you're communicating regularly with your colleagues, and that's both in terms of kind of communicating the progress. So in normal circumstances, perhaps you would be able to share that informally across the desk, but making sure that whoever needs to know, your stakeholders, are kept up to date with what you're doing, what any blockers are, what help you might need to make sure that whatever you're tasked to do is delivered within the timeline and effectively. And also making sure that you're finding the opportunity to take some kind of social time. So have a chat with somebody, Skype or kind of call someone on Teams, or have a chat with whoever else is working your house, your new colleagues, so to speak. And that kind of making sure your home responsibilities are accounted for and kind of staying productive and being able to effectively do your job, very much connected to an individual's ability to stay well during this kind of process. And that's about, you know, people's mental health and well-being and kind of sense of productivity, but it's also about their physical well-being. And so encouraging people to, you know, sit on the chair properly and or go for the walk with the dog, or jump on the treadmill, or do some yoga, or to take some time away from thinking about the day job on a frequent basis is really, really important. In particular, given that we don't really know how long this current situation is going to last. And it could be for some weeks to come yet. So finding a new normal is probably really important for people, and that's what we've tried to encourage people to do via their line managers, but also directly with communications to them via that toolkit. In addition to that, you know, for me, the kind of big piece about this is maintaining connection and connectivity. And making sure that people don't get disconnected from the kind of high level messages of the organisation, the sense of direction and what's happening with the business. Up until kind of recently, we would have an all hands call, so all 600 of us on a webinar once a month. We've now significantly increased the frequency of those conversations. We're now having them every week on a Monday. So that's an opportunity for everyone in the organisation to stay on purpose. Purpose is really, really important for Insights, reminding ourselves why we're all here and the difference we're making in the world. And even when it feels hard, there's a real reason behind it. Staying connected to the strategy and the changing and emerging strategy of the business. Staying connected to the business performance, which for all of us is really important. And that sets the context for why some of the approaches and ways of working and priorities that we are now working to have changed a bit, because we need to think about that business performance. And also thinking about the customer stories, being able to share the customer stories in terms of the brilliant things we've managed to deliver for our customers in this period and the impacts that we've had on their business. And we also take that time to share some of the fun stuff, you know, so what are our colleagues doing across the globe to make this time feel great, to stay connected as teams. And I've personally had the opportunity to jump into a few team connects around the globe, and our people are being really creative about how they make a sense of fun. You know, from, you know, theme dressing up check-ins. I joined one on Monday where the first 10 minutes of the conversation, the team conversation, was actually exercise. So it was a bit like, this will definitely date me, but it was a bit like the Green Goddess, who used to be an exercise pro on breakfast TV. So lots of bending, stretching, and a little bit breathless at the end of it, but we all joined in with gay abandon. And actually, you know, it had the desired effect in terms of, you know, getting some of the endorphins rushing, and also gave us all a bit of a laugh trying to do it on Teams. And the sights you see on camera, you just sometimes don't want to share those with people. I think the other kind of wraparound piece for me is just frequent communication. So I have also had internal communications in my remit. And I have had a rolling 2-week internal communications plan, which is iterated on a weekly basis to make sure that we're delivering the right information to the right groups of individuals in a timely fashion, in a way that people can absorb and connect with, and that is avoiding an avalanche of information, which is probably to some extent the natural reaction of human beings at a time like this. You just want to kind of tell people things on a frequent basis, but there's an absorbability factor here for me, which we need to manage as leaders of the organisation, to make sure that people are hearing what they need to know when they need to know it, with real clarity of message, and making sure that what they need to do and how you want them to feel is really obvious in the communication you're sending out. And we will continue that kind of approach as the situation kind of rolls out. I think the other thing, the final thing I will say, because we definitely haven't cornered the market in brilliant ideas, is sharing knowledge. So one of the things we've set up in the last couple of weeks is, to all intents and purposes, is an employee ideas mailbox, but seeking feedback, communication and ideas from an incredibly creative community across the globe. And some of the ideas they've come up with have been really simple, but just really brilliant. So I guess my advice would be, you know, go to your people and they'll give you the answer quite often, and even in ideas in terms of, you know, how to kind of effectively manage costs and things that one assumes are the right things to do, often are nearly as creative or brilliant as the ideas that your people come up with. So I'm going to stop talking now. I know there'll be questions towards the end. I'm hopefully my session is going to segue beautifully into the session that comes next, which I think is about growth mindset, which is, you know, a vital ingredient of the success of all of our organisations in the time to come. So I'm now going to hand over, beautiful segue, to Jamie, I think. Jamie, over to you.
Hannah, thank you very much. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. So yeah, a lot of the material that I'm about to discuss as well, as Anna says, got so many parallels to what has been discussed already by Laura and by Anna. And I suppose, without saying, you know, what mindset can do to help us through this uncomfortable period, I suppose the first thing to do, we don't want to come across as sounding patronising. This is the idealistic mindset you need to have to get through the coming days, weeks and months. There might be a notion that we just say, come on, let's just get on with it. But it's not real. You know, we've got to understand that not just within this particular period of our life, every single one of us deals and copes with change in a whole different way. So some of us will be having a sense of that feeling of loss or feeling of grief because we don't have the same routines, we don't have the same environments. So we've got to really, you know, be empathetic towards that we will all be dealing with this in the same way. And it's very, very new for every single one of us, whether you're a leader or a manager or a member of staff, a colleague, whoever we are, it's all new to us. So something I'm about to say is broad, and you probably will be doing a lot of this already, and we've heard examples of all of this happening already. But one thing that I would encourage everybody to do is, have we got a platform where we can effectively listen to the concerns that our colleagues have got? Have we got a virtual staff room? You know, we might miss that cup of coffee, that we just have that chat. You know, have we speaking about how we're really feeling? How are you feeling? Oh, thank God, I thought I was the only one. You're feeling that as well. Is that opportunity still there just now where we can have that cup of coffee? Is there a chat where, again, that it might be for particular levels of an organisation, that they can't just let loose with how they're feeling? Because once we feel listened to, we can start to calm down. We can start to be maybe a little bit more rational about how we're thinking and just connect with other people. But then we can start to understand and maybe reflect on, what is the language that we're currently using with others? Is it supportive? Are we being quite positive and upbeat? Are we actually, you know, alluding to the kind of negative and the lack of what we've not got just now? An opportunity to maybe think and listen to what we're kind of saying as well, which I think is pretty important. But I think there's such a wonderful opportunity for organisations to really start to think about the goals they've set for this year. You know, can we review and reevaluate, you know, where are we? Is an opportunity to set new goals, because we will need to adapt collectively and individually about what we're doing. Does this provide new opportunities? If it does, then have we got the platform again to speak, to share, to collaborate, to actually to come up with these ideas without being shot down, where everybody again feels listened to and we feel valued part of the process. And I'm asking people the question that who I'm talking to: what kind of person do you individually want to be at the end of this period? Because we are going to come out the other side. Do you want to be in exactly the same position as you are just now, or do you want to come out stronger, more resilient, you've actually developed a set of skills that you've put off for a long time because you just haven't had the time. Well, unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be an excuse anymore. I think we've got a bit of time now, but can maybe start to develop these skills. But what about collectively, again, celebrating where we've got to so far? People will be feeling a little bit scared, anxious, angry to a degree. Everything's unpredictable. But can we take stock of the successes we've done already, individually and collectively? But also, is there an opportunity here to maybe address some of the things that we've been looking to sort out for a while now? So is there a way of looking at the culture we've currently got, habits we've got within an organisation that can help performance? Can we review performance? But there's definitely certain things that we just haven't had the time to get around of discussing that or tweaking that. Another opportunity to maybe start thinking about how we use the time effectively. And this all links back to goals. What does the goals mean from an organisational perspective, from an individual perspective? Because Anna talked about that kind of sense of purpose, and we really do need to kind of reconnect with that. So what our viewing now, I've purposely really started to adapt to what I'm doing each day to ensure that I can get overwhelmed by the kind of situation we're in. And again, I'm just normal, I'm just human. These feelings and thoughts are coming like every single one of us. But how do we change that? How do we turn those feelings to say, okay, if we're all feeling like that, how can we start thinking about, okay, can we refocus on what we're doing here? There's definitely an opportunity to build capacity. There's so many free courses out there that you can tap into. Is there a set of skills that you've never got around to? Is there something within your personal development plan that actually I've been wanting to do it for a while? Is there an opportunity to create a new personal development plan to kind of re-engage with that sense of purpose and that focus? And when it comes to leadership, as leaders, we're exactly the same as everybody else. This is new. This is scary. And it's perfectly okay to show your vulnerabilities to everybody else, because vulnerability equals strength, and people can start to connect in terms of what we're doing there and being empathetic that actually, look at me, we're stepping out of our comfort zone here. Is there an opportunity to actually increase the amount of appraisals we're doing, one-to-ones, where not just in terms of text or by email or by call, but actually face-to-face. So seeing the whites of somebody's eyes, looking at the smiles, connecting with somebody, allowing people, not just within a very structured appraisal, but just a touch base. How are you getting on? Is everything okay on a regular basis? And not just with an individual perspective, what an opportunity. And a lot of people are doing team huddles, team get-togethers on a regular basis. But when we're doing that, can we park maybe the work stuff for a while and do something fun? Can we do quizzes? Can we do something else that we can start to look forward to, just to keep morale, spirits high, and actually giving people the accountability to go and create something themselves where everybody's got something to do coming up, because there is a clear sense of overwhelm around this. So having an opportunity to be open and honest and clear about the expectations, because working remotely is new. And I'm hearing from people that sometimes, even when we're in our own homes, we're scared to do certain things. I'm actually meant to be working. Can I step foot outside the house? Will somebody see me? Is Big Brother watching? How does this impact on kind of how you feel going out through the course of the day? And it's setting that routine, because we will feel overwhelmed. We will, have so many things. We've got family, we've got work, we've got all these different messages come from the media. But how do we start to kind of prioritise what we're doing each day? Looking at your to-do list at the beginning of a day, but then put it away and just maybe selecting 1 or 2 things or 3 things to get through that day. You might have heard a term called eat the frog. Take the ugliest task, get through that, eat it, and everything else is far more accomplishable. And then time blocking when you do each day, so you commit to a particular thing every single hour of the day, and then put every other distraction away. So we avoid multitasking, we avoid procrastination, and we just keep our minds totally tuned in and focused. And before you know it, we're at the end of the day, and days just start to merge into one another. But that all comes back down to mindset. What do we collectively and individually believe about what's happening within this current predicament in time? Do we believe we're going to come out of this eventually? Do we think this is going to go on for a lot longer? Because that will feed into the habits we got each day, and your habits will then result into your behaviours, and your behaviours will then manifest into the results you get. So it's really having time to reflect on, is this being conducive to how productive we can be on a regular basis? Opportunity to reconnect, build up positive relationships, as Anna said. reconnect with other people, other family members, friends, and just getting that communication, find out the best method of communication, which I find in these days, it's seeing other people's faces, being able to connect, as I said, creating a virtual staff room where we can get together and just chat, making it feel as normal as possible, because although we feel scared, angry, anxious, and all these different feelings, every brand new day is a fresh start. So can we then put that routine in place again? Do we plan our food intake to make sure our energy levels are spot on? We're drinking the right amount of water. We're planning that exercise in. Actually doing some form of personal development that is going to get us thinking more positively. And I would encourage everybody, if they don't already do this, commit 5 to 10 minutes a day, doing some form of visualization. There's apps, free apps that you can start to really think about what is the future going to look like. That can then help you focus on each of the day. So hopefully that's made sense. It links into what Anna has said. It's linked into what Laura has said. But like anybody else, I'm here to help. I'm here to chat. I'm here to do some face-to-face and lives. And suppose what I didn't say at the beginning, who I am. So I've got a number of different roles across Dundee and the country. I support education in Dundee. I'm based within Leisure and Culture Dundee. I work with third sector, private sector, and third sector organisations, looking at services, what's their mindset culturally, how does that feed into leadership, how does it impact on service users, but I also I've got my own business as well, working across the country, work with different small, medium and multinational organisations. Mindset at the centre, but then again, what does that mean for culture, what does it mean for leadership, what does it mean for performance, what does that mean for everybody being the best versions of themselves. So I'm conscious, I've went on a bit there, hopefully that's helped. Hopefully it just kind of validates you're doing the right thing already. And I'm going to pass over to Ross now, who is the virtual roaming mic guy.
Thanks very much, Jamie. That's great, and thanks to Anna and Laura as well. Some really interesting stuff there. We've got just one question here in the chat, and I suppose if we maybe just go back to Laura for this one, from Chris Hudson, it's about do you think employers or employees about how they will return after this is all finished with? Will there be a different mindset and a change to employees working from home? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think although it's a scary sort of set of circumstances that we're all dealing with this in, I think it will change the way people go back to the normal way of life. I mean, do you need to go all that way for that meeting? Can you not just do it remotely? Can you just keep that regular communication up? Sometimes you would put it off in your day-to-day office life. Can you actually just keep that up? So I personally think it will change, and it will kind of affect the way businesses think, because although we hope nothing like this will happen again, I mean you need to be planned for anything at this point in time. So I think it will kind of give people probably that little bit of like what can we do to make sure that we've got the plans in place to deal with whatever is thrown our way, really.
Totally. No, I definitely think it will make there'll be a different feeling towards working from home after this, for sure. Anna, do you have any comment on that, or how you feel about it? Oh, sorry, you'll need to unmute yourself. That's better.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm just going to build on what Laura said, really. So I definitely agree that post this, there will be a new normal. I think that what we've proven throughout this whole process, and I kind of definitely speak personally for Insights, but I can see that that's the case in many other organisations as well, is that we actually all had access to the right technologies to support our ability to work incredibly flexibly. We just probably didn't have the burning platform to leverage them to their greatest extent. We do now, and what we know is that we can, and we do maintain those connections, and we can continue to service our customers and our clients really effectively in so doing, and still maintain those relationships. So I definitely think the new normal would be quite different. That's not to say that there won't be individuals who work for any of our organisations that have a slightly different preference. So human beings are different, that's the joy of it. And there will be some individuals who just want to go back to what they did before, but others will have access to just a really different range of flexibility, I think, which can only be a good thing.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Okay, I think that's pretty much it from the questions. I'll pass back over to Sarah now because we are conscious of time as well. We would be due to wrap up soon. So thanks very much, guys, and I'll pass you back over to Sarah.
Thanks, Ross. Yeah, thanks very much to our speakers. I think there's some real kind of key takeaways from it, and certainly a lot that organisations, if they're not already doing some of those things, should certainly be doing and encouraging their staff to do as well. So just to kind of end by saying that our webinar session is continuing next week. We're just finalising some speakers. They are all up online with a kind of brief intro on what we will be discussing. So head onto the website and have a look at the webinars. The recording from the session will be up on YouTube around about 24 hours. Having a few issues with it last night, hopefully won't get the same today. But should be able to get it up there shortly for people to refer back to. But also to share around their colleagues, share around friends, share over LinkedIn, you know, wherever you want to post that. These recordings are there to benefit everybody, and obviously not just those who have attended the event. That's pretty much from me for just now. You know where the Chamber team are. If you don't have your email with your contact person, then do get in touch, and we'll get you in touch with that person who is kind of leading your organisation. And supporting you through the chamber network. But yep, that's it for me just now. Thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.